All right, guys, welcome again to the RCA channel. We've got another fit video here for you today, and this is a cracker because I'm fitting another bike fitter, physio bike fitter.
Indeed.
Too. Yeah, we both got the same qualifications. A couple of years apart, I imagine. When was your...
I'm a little bit older than you.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. I wouldn't have picked
Asian skin.
Wouldn't have picked it.
Yeah.
I look older than I am and you look younger than you are.
Yeah.
We'll even it out. So this is Nicole. Nicole works down at the Body Mechanic in Sydney. She's a physio / bike fitter down there, same as me. She's come up to see me because we've got some mutual acquaintances, and also she's discovered the same thing I've discovered. It's incredibly difficult to fit yourself, isn't it, Nicole?
Yes.
So she's got two problems. We're dealing with a little 49 centimetre SL6 tarmac. Nicole has short legs. We're going to try and, you're extrapolating out to a new frame, and
Yes,
you wanted a bit of help.
yes.
You with that? Yep.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
some asymmetry type issues. Give us a quick overview of those.
So I always get like left-sided pressure, so hand, foot.
Yep.
I know I don't have on this bike, but on a bike I have power pedals that read both sides, and it's always left-sided more than the right.
55, 45 or so, or worse?
Yep, 55, 45,
Yep.
sometimes 53, 47.
And one-sided pains on a knee or a VMO or something?
Yep.
Left VMO? That was a good guess.
Yeah.
And there we go. And
if anything hurts, it's probably going to be left.
Okay, no worries. So a bit of asymmetry and a new bike in the offing. So we've got to spec up some sizes and look at some geometries and stuff and try and figure out what we're going to do. You've already bought a soloist. What size was the soloist that you've got?
51.
It's a 51. So we'll try and figure out later on if that's going to work, guys. So let's get cracking and see what we can find, Nicole.
All right. Let's go.
Your feet are actually fairly different too. Tense your quads up and lock your knees back into extension. Yeah, the whole left VMO is bigger. All right, so there's a lot of asymmetry. It's not crazy bad asymmetry, but there's like a rotoscoliosis with your right lumbar paraspinal sitting out posteriorly, like your right shoulder's dropped and your left shoulder tilts forward, and your right glute's bigger and your left calf is bigger and your left VMO is bigger, and your right arch is flatter. So yeah, there's a lot going on. The good news is your pelvis is fairly level. So that's kind of...
trying to look at in the mirror.
That's kind of something, yeah. What's your professional experience with white shoes versus blue shoes? Like, which one's faster? Do you think?
White shoes, definitely.
White shoes?
But blue shoes are for rain.
Blue shoes, though, if you've got a blue bike, I have heard that
that's why I got them.
they're nearly as fast as white shoes.
Yeah.
I think there's about 30 watts in these, and about 20 in
Not
those.
because they're in bonds, because they're white.
And black is obviously the slowest.
Well, never wear black shoes.
Yeah, well, I've learned that.
Yeah. Black shoes.
YouTube viewers, we've got something interesting today, and it's Nicole, but it's Nicole's bum. She's asymmetrical in an interesting way. She actually drops her left hip forward. Now, we haven't seen one of these before on the channel, so I'm happy you've come in, Nicole. She drops her left hip forward, indicating she's probably got a neurologically dominant left leg, and that explains a lot of the extra hand loading she's getting on the left side. So we're going to try and fix this today, and I'll bet you it's related to that dodgy left ankle of yours, Nicole. Very similar sort of situation to, if you remember our previous video with Richard it was, who had a similar sort of damage to his right ankle. So looking at, he was dropping his left hip. Looking at Nicole from above, if we can get a shot directly from above down, no wonder you've been having problems. So Nicole's got a really interesting left hip drop. 1 in 20, 1 in 30 people you'll see dropping their left hip forward like this, because almost all of us are neurologically dominant with our right side. But she's got a plethora of left-sided symptoms. She's got left-sided wrist loading and like callus formation on the inside edge of her wrist there. Left-sided adductor niggles, left-sided tendinopathy in her external rotators of her hip, and left-sided VMO loading. So yeah, from the left, she looks like her seat is lower and further forward than she does from the right. From the right, the seat does look a bit high, but from the left, it looks almost perfect. And this is, of course, because she's dropping her left hip forward. So this hip is closer to the cranks than the other one, and the other one is further up, up and back away from the cranks. So we see two different effective seat heights as viewed from the side. Now, in terms of causality, this has got to have something to do with Nicole's dodgy left foot, I'm guessing. We're about to find out. We're going to go through a bit of trial and error here and figure out what's doing this. It's an interesting one.
If you're watching this video and you're thinking, man, I would love to get a bike fit with that bloke right there to resolve my discomfort issues, maybe more power transfer on the bike, but I ain't flying to Australia for that. Completely get it, but think again. Both Neill and the RCA have just launched an online bike fitting program called Bike Fit Fundamentals. This includes 3 primary elements. Number 1, 8 video tutorials. Number 2, 8 supporting downloadable guides. And number 3, a community forum where Neill is even active. All to take you through a proven bike fitting step-by-step process you can do from the comfort of your own home. Please note there'll be a link below, and if you can get in early for our launching offer, we're offering a 33% discount. It's only $99 US for all of Neill's knowledge and wisdom. Let's get back into it.
In terms of the general position, not much terribly wrong except this. Nicole knows already that this is too high and too close to her, the bar, and she naturally wants to go out and down. The bike is just too tall in the front end, which sounds crazy when we're talking about a 49 centimetre tarmac, but it is. She's got such a low seat height due to her short legs that she needs a fair amount of reach and drop just to be well balanced. And you can see even now under this light load, she's holding her hands out onto the hood like this, which is a subconscious attempt to move out. And she obviously needs to go down as well. So we're going to try probably a 20 degree 120 millimeter stem, which is going to be 2 centimeters longer than this. And that'll give us some idea of the reach that she'll tolerate. The annoying thing is we can't drop the bar much. There's just physically no way. But I know that she's nowhere near her limit of the drop. She's probably got an extra 15 to 20 millimeters of drop that she could tolerate. Going to be a bit of a problem for the next bike. Yeah. Stand up on those for me. You don't feel that that level of arch is too much?
No.
It feels fine?
Yeah, especially in my bonds.
Yeah, they've got a bit in them already. Sweet. All right, come back off. Those should be a good enough base for us to work from. The heel cup is not very deep. We're going to try and see how we go with these first. If we can use the stuff you've already got and it works, happy days. You're going to need them. That foot is spectacular. Slightly better here. Probably halfway. Okay. Now we do a bit more sleuthing. Let me borrow that foot for a sec, Nicole. Gonna steal your shoe. Yeah, good choice of cranks, I think. The 160s. I think that was a tops move. Well done.
Yeah.
So we're just seeing here basically what affects your pelvic symmetry. Is there anything that affects it? And yes, each time I wedge that foot, it gets better. It's almost completely gone, but it's going to need like 3 or 4 degrees of wedging, like quite a lot. Does it feel unusual in the orthotic? No. Good. All right, guys, we're halfway through. What we've been doing is incrementally increasing the support underneath Nicole's, particularly her dodgy left ankle, which is her dominant leg. And we've basically been stabilizing that foot with heel wedging and cleat wedging. And we've got a 4-foot wedge in there at the moment. What we're discovering here is that she gets incrementally better and more stable and more symmetrical in her pelvis position as the wedging increases. So she's going to need quite a lot. She's going to need 3 or 4 degrees of 4-foot wedging and probably 3 or 4 degrees of heel wedging as well. We're going to make this mostly symmetrical because her right ankle is quite loose as well, but it's the left one, as you can see. I haven't really done anything to the right foot yet. Her left leg being her neurologically dominant leg, that is the one which she is going out of her way to subconsciously protect because of this instability. So all I've been doing is wedging the left one to see what actually affects this. And sure enough, it's gotten incrementally better as we've done it. So she's going to need quite a lot. And that correlates with how bad that ankle is. We were just having a discussion about how loose it was. It's very loose indeed. And the ligaments have been absolutely beaten up from that sprain. So it's another good advertisement for not damaging your ankles, Nicole.
Don't play netball when you're a child.
Don't play netball, she says.
Bone health, though.
It is. All right, let's go a bit further. Come and have a seat. All right, I'm assuming that 3 degrees is going to do the job. Oh, yeah. Pretty good. Oh, now we're getting too much left glute activation, so now we need to do the right foot as well. So this is another good giveaway, is the relative activation of your glute maxes. Just digging my index finger here into them, the left one was doing almost nothing before and the right one was really overactive, which is why I reckon that's why your right glute is physically larger than your left. because when you drop your left hip forward, the right glute has to do a lot more stabilization work. And so it gradually bulks up in response to that load. And now we've actually got a situation where your left glute is actually working harder than your right by a small margin. So as we've stabilized your foot, this has gotten better. So we're going to need to do similar sorts of things to the right one, just not quite as much.
My quad's really crazy.
Yeah, the seat, if you've been riding with it higher like that, we'll probably bring it up and forward again a little bit in a minute. Gee, it looks pretty good from the sides. Very, very even. I'm going to raise the seat a smidge, and I'm going to wedge your right foot a little bit more in a second. Oh, so much better here. Yeah, so both glute maxes are working really evenly now. There's one other thing I can spot, which is that you've still got slightly differential ankling left versus right. So you're dropping your left heel a little more than your right. Now this is a couple of things this could be. It's possible that you've got a very fractionally shorter right leg, which we're going to figure out in a minute, or this is a remnant, a neurological motor patterning remnant, which will go in time. All right, so we're going to test Nicole here with a 2mm shim underneath her right foot. We've got her pelvis pretty much perfectly square to the bike. She's still dropping her left heel a little more than her right, and this could be an indication that she's actually subconsciously towing the right pedal to make her leg longer. So we're just going to see if this actually pans out. We're not wedded to this. Off the bike, she doesn't look like she's got a leg length difference, but remember, when you're checking for leg length discrepancies, there is always measurement error. And the measurement error, when you're really, really, really good at it, like I am, is like 3 to 5mm, which is quite a lot. If you're trying to do it yourself at home for the first time, your measurement error can be enormous. So testing for really small leg length discrepancies by just testing a shim is a valuable technique to sort of determine to a really fine tolerance if there is actually a small discrepancy. And there'll be people out there watching this that will be screaming at me going, there's no way you can tell the difference in leg extension with a 2mm shim versus no shim. So a 2mm change in the stack height of the cleat system. But believe me, it is visible and you can see it if you know what you're looking for. All right, and that is why you always test a shim, because it looks terrible. Does it feel worse? You can't tell. So there's a huge...
When you're moving the saddle height, that's what I usually feel.
Yeah, yeah.
If I play around with my saddle height.
So it hasn't changed Nicole's ankling at all of her right ankle versus her left ankle. It's massively over-engaged her right glute now relative to her left, which is a really bad thing. We want the glutes activating symmetrically. And her pelvis is actually less square to the bike. So the shim is a no-no, Nicole. That tells us you definitely don't have a short right leg. But what's going on is you've been differentially activating your anterior and your posterior chains on the two legs for a long time, and you just haven't come out of it yet. Yeah, this will take some time. Particularly ankling is one of those things which takes a long time to become really symmetrical once we give it the required things that are, to allow it to be that way. So I've got high hopes that you'll be totally fine in a couple of months. To be fair, this level of asymmetry in your ankling is so small that Nicole will probably never even A, notice it, or B, have a problem with it. But I would like to see it gone one day if we could. So yeah, we'll get rid of that shim and move on. Yeah, so no shim for you. My guess is what'll happen is your ankling will just slowly become symmetrical. One day it won't be there. You look pretty good. Because of your rotoscoliosis, you always hold your head off center to the left of the bike as well, which is one of the things that we can't easily do much about. The critical thing is the pelvic symmetry. If that's out of plane, you get masses of loading there. If this is a little bit out of whack, it's not as bad because you can drop one elbow a bit and compensate through your shoulder way better than you can compensate through the pelvis for this. So yeah, it's not going to kill you, but you'll still have a little bit of extra weight. Just for a sec, crank the load up for 30 seconds to above your threshold, like a zone 5 sort of load. Yeah, you're holding it. It doesn't get any worse under load. That's a good sign. All right, so guys, we've ended up here with a combination of 3 degrees of cleat wedging and 4 degrees of heel wedging underneath Nicole's left foot, which is a lot. And underneath her right foot, we've got 2 degrees of cleat wedging and 2 degrees of heel wedging. And this is working really, really well. She's got generally unstable ankles, but the left one is really bad from that old sprain. You can see from the top-down footage, her pelvis is almost perfectly square. We've got a tiny bit of leftover differential in the ankling. She's towing the right pedal a tiny bit more than the left, but it's very, very minimal, and I'm going to put that down to ingrained motor patterning. She looks really good. She's getting even glute engagement, which is another nice thing. We've lengthened her reach by 10 millimeters, but it's still a bit short. I'm going to advise Nicole probably to put a 120 millimeter -20 or -25 degree stem on this bike. The one that we've got on there at the moment is a 110 because I am freshly out of 120 -20s. It's the only size that we don't have. Isn't that always the way? So she's easily got another 10 millimeters of reach in her and at least 15 or 20 millimeters of drop, which is going to be a bit of a problem because we're just not going to be able to get almost any bike off the shelf low enough in the front end to make her comfortable. So the next bike, we're going to have a look at some geometry with her in a minute. The next bike is a Cervelo Soloist. So we'll go over the geometry of that, see how it compares to this one, and we'll see if we can recommend the stem that should go on that bike. And we know it's going to be slammed, we know it's going to be as low as it can go, but should we go with a -20, a -25, or potentially even a -30 degree stem if we can find one? That's what we'll try and figure out next. All right, Nicole, we are finished up here. We've made a whole bunch of very, very small changes to the bike with one massive change to your feet. Huge amounts of wedging. We got three cleat wedges on one side and 4 heel wedges, and then on the other side we've got 2 and 2. Okay. So huge amounts of foot stabilization going on here, and this looks really good. As we incrementally wedged that left foot, you just got squarer and squarer to the bike. Your symmetry got better and better. Tiny little bits of residual asymmetry. So off the bike, I'm going to get you to strength train your right quad and your left hamstring for a couple of months to try and get them back even again. And we will hopefully see that residual ankling asymmetry just disappears in time. There's very little of it left, but I'd love to get rid of all of it. The critical thing being that your pelvis is wonderfully square to the bike and your glutes are firing really evenly, and that's the best metrics for symmetry that you really, that you ever see. We've determined that this bike is still too high in the front end. We're pretty sure we need to go down about 20 millimeters, but we physically can't. Yeah. So the next bike is going to need to be super aggressively race orientated, which is good, but there's going to be very few options for you on the market.
Doesn't exist.
No, yeah. Yeah, so we need something with a steep C-tube angle to help run Nicole's relatively forward saddle position. She's got a seat height of around 640, 650 millimeters, so it needs to have a very short C-tube. She reaches out and gets down to the front really, really well. So we need something that's super long and super low in that like 49 centimeter frame size, and that's going to be hard to find. So yeah, if you find something with a stack height of around 485, 490 millimeters, be right on the money. So very, very few options out there for...
With a reach of 380.
With a reach of
375.
360 to 375, you get away with a longer stem. Yeah, just requires a longer stem. So these are all the annoying considerations. And I've spoken to Nicole today about 650B wheels and that sort of stuff as another option. And we've both got our professional opinions on these things. So, but that is what she needs. So it's whether or not you're willing to experiment.
It's not happening.
We've also determined that the blue shoes are slower than the white shoes. 100% definitely slower. So it's nice to meet you, Nicole.
Indeed.
Been a pleasure. Again. And yeah, I hope I was of some assistance. I'll be very interested to hear how your symmetry goes in the next couple of months. Yes. And if you have any trouble, just sing out and hit me up.